Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Allison Kinnear, and we are still talking about 7 good reasons to feel like an imposter. Now, here's one of the biggest myths. People think, and I know when I first started researching this, I thought that imposter syndrome happened in my head. Like it was all me, it was all my fault. There was something wrong with me that made me think in these ways. However, that is not always the case. There are absolutely social and cultural aspects that can feed into, and circumstantial things really, that can feed into you feeling like an imposter. Today, we are going to talk about the sixth good reason to feel like an imposter. Again, all of this comes from Dr. Valerie Young. Great book. Take a look at it. Today, we're going to talk about what she calls you are a stranger in a strange land. What does that mean? That can mean anything from you are working in a country that is not native to where you grew up. It can mean you're speaking a different language that that you didn't grow up speaking, right? When you are having to try to fit in to another culture, when you feel like you're a fish out of water somewhere, then it's really easy to let the self-doubt and like, how did I even get here, creep in. Now, it can apply to that. However, it applies much deeper, this being a stranger in the strange land. It also means that if you grew up working class and then suddenly you are in a white collar position, then you can feel like, I don't even know the rules here, right? Similar to working in another country. Like, I don't know the rules here. I don't know what's expected of me. I will tell you, this was my experience completely. I grew up very blue collar family, first to go to college. And when I got to Google, I was like, I don't understand this world. And even when I went to college, I did not understand the world I was in. There were norms that I was just not aware of because nobody had crossed that path before me. So, if you grew up in a different socioeconomic status, and if you are a woman or you are a person of color in the business sector, in the corporate cultural world, you were not even allowed to be a part of that corporate institution. The structure was not made with you in mind. It was not made for women. It was not made for people of color. And so there are institutional norms and biases and ways of being that are not, that are going to be having to be figured out. And so that can make it very easy to feel like I don't fit in here. I don't belong here. What am I even doing here? Did they just hire me because there was some diversity limit, or why am I here? And so all of those feelings are all, it's not exactly a good reason, but they are all valid reasons for you to feel out of place. Okay. So this is what, so what do you do, right? So if you are succeeding, if you are doing well in a world that was not built with you in mind, if you are a person of color, if you are a woman, if you are in a male dominated field, if you are if you're working in a different country, if you're working in a different language and you are doing well in what you do, then it's time to possibly invite feeling like a success and not a fraud. I remember I gave a talk at a very big tech company, and it was women in finance is who I was speaking to. And this Black woman stood up and said, "How do you know? How do you know, like that I'm actually not a fraud?" And actually, it wasn't even just women in finance; it was senior women in finance. And I was like, "Well, I have a question for you. Are you a senior in finance at this company?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, There you go. The thing about imposter syndrome is it is not a performance problem, it is a perception problem. And with the microaggressions and with all the other many, many things that are stacked against, people who the infrastructure was not built for, it's really easy for that to feed the flames of imposter syndrome when that's not exactly the case. And the point Dr. Young makes in her book also is like, we often think about imposter syndrome like it plagues all parts of our lives. But the fact of the matter is, it actually doesn't. Chances are, outside of work, you probably feel really confident about who you are and what you do and how you show up in life. You're not feeling like an imposter when you're puttering around your house or when you're being a daughter or a sister or a brother or whoever to a relative or a friend. Chances are you're only feeling it in positions, in places where power is at hand. Because when power is at hand, and the way historically power has been created at hand, these are all, when we interact with that, it's not to say that white men can't feel imposter syndrome too, but chances are more likely that it's fleeting. If you were born in an upper class and you are a white man, chances are you don't even get what I'm talking about here. It's not even on your radar. I can't tell you how many men I've talked to who are like, "That's a thing," and then their wives pulled me aside and go, "Oh my gosh, you just named something that I didn't even know had a name." So, yeah, it's a thing, but you only encounter it when you are feeling like you don't belong. Okay. So if you're succeeding in a place that wasn't built for you, that is something to be celebrating. Okay. And then I would also say is bond with people who are like you, share your story, talk about it. To be able to talk with other people and say, this is how I feel. I don't know what, like to share even a little bit about imposter syndrome. All of this becomes really powerful and important and helps, once again, with the feeling of not being alone and helps you feel like you belong in your role. And then finally, don't encourage the feelings of imposter syndrome by believing them. This is just another way of saying we have lots of thoughts in our heads and it's our choice what we believe. And so you can actually increase how much imposter syndrome you feel when you believe it, when you believe that you're a fraud. That's kind of why I'm breaking all of this down for you, because you can then start to separate and go, wait, maybe it's not because I'm a woman or I'm a person of color in this field. Maybe it's because of all these other reasons why, even though I keep getting success after success and everyone says I'm doing a great job, I still feel like, any minute they're going to kick me out. That may not be on you. And there's a really great article called Stop Telling Women They Have Imposter Syndrome. And it talks about this very issue. It's saying it's not exactly the women's fault that they're feeling this way. There are societal infrastructures that that never were intended for women. And that's why women can feel like an imposter. Absolutely. And so I'll put a link to that article because it's amazing. Um, Tomorrow, I am going to talk about the seventh and final good reason to feel like an imposter. I hope to see you there. And then on Thursday, I am giving a talk all about overcoming imposter syndrome. It's the big talk that I've given to big tech companies, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and I'm bringing it to you. And so if you want to attend, it is this Thursday, August 18th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. It's 90 minutes. And it will be recorded for everyone who registers. So even if you can't make it, that's okay. You can watch the replay after. I will put a link in the comments so you can check it out. If you want to know more about me, you can check me out at AlisonKinnear.com. Thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you tomorrow for the final good reason to feel like an imposter. I'll see you then.